Hi, and welcome to the leadership table tonight with our senior leadership team. My name is Paul. This is my beautiful wife, Wanel.
Hello.
And we have our senior leaders, Daniel and Laura Harmon. Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, good to have you with us. Now, this evening, we're going to look at a topic of failure. And I want to emphasize right at the very beginning, we are not going to talk about moral failure tonight. We're just going to talk about failure in other areas and how we see each fail as an opportunity to learn and to grow. You know, sometimes we fail at something and we think that's the end of the road and we've hit a dead end. But tonight we're going to debate that and show you ways out of failure into perfect success. So I'm going to throw it across to Daniel, and he's going to start the debate with us.
Yeah, I think this is a really great topic to talk about because it's something that is relevant and we can all relate to because we've all failed in our lives, haven't we, at something. It's part of how we learn and grow. If you think about, you know, when you have children and they're starting to learn how to walk, they're going to fall over many times. But, you know, the parents, well, most parents, good parents, certainly aren't going to be shouting and saying, "Oi, what are you doing? You're falling over again. You know, you're a disgrace." Normally the parents are just full of encouragement that even though the children are, you know, maybe crawling along, falling over, there's that encouragement, there's that affirmation because they recognize that it's an important part of growing, learning, development. And I would go so far to say this: if you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not failing, you're not growing. What doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. And so this subject tonight about reframing failure is we really want to help you to have a more empowered perspective about this. And anyone who's done anything significant in life, in the world, has experienced multiple failures. And it's all about how we respond to that. And I had, you know, recently I made a bit of a boo-boo. I'm not going to mention it on air what it was. But I made a mistake and I was really beating myself up about it. It wasn't really a massive mistake, but it's amazing how we can get discouraged. We can, you know, doubt ourselves, particularly if we're a bit tired or we're stressed or, you know, we're struggling. I was just, you know, finding myself like I was beating myself up and thinking, what, you know, questioning my abilities. And you're like, what are you doing? But this is how we grow. This is how we learn. Laura, any thoughts from you, Laura, on this?
I think I was just thinking about when I started making jewelry, and I failed lots of times. I burnt stuff, didn't I? I used the wrong clay, and I think it just drove me to be more creative. So I had to dig deeper and research about why is this happening? Why does the same problem keep happening? And I think I think you can be at a crossroads, can't you? Of, oh, I'm going to go one way, I'm going to give up, this isn't working. Or you can dig deeper and try and find out, why did that go wrong? Why did that happen? And do it a different way.
Definitely.
Yeah, we got some great comments coming up here. I see Wendy Potter's put a Michael Jordan quote: "If you quit once, it becomes a habit. Never quit."
So good. Love that.
Yeah, I thought that was good as well. And obviously, Dan Warboys has put "fail forward." And then, of course, we read a lot about lots of people, don't we, that I think it was the guy who found the cure for polio. He actually said, you know, I think it was 175 times or something like that. And people often would want to talk about all those times that he failed. And he said, well, actually, for me, I turned that around and started saying I found 175 ways how not to do it. So trying to just find the positives in, you know, how to turn those around. So I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we've all failed in what we try to do to push forward, but it's how we come out of that and what we do with that failure, which I think is really important.
Yeah, you just got to bounce back, come back stronger. And as I tell the young guys that I meet with, learn once. And if you continue in the same vein and you fail in that particular area, you learn the mistake you made in that area, and then you move on to the next one. But just learn once. Don't keep repeating the same thing in the same area. And that's how you move forward. And I noticed, Mark A was put there. If you've learned from it, is it really failure? Of course, if you learn from the mistake you made, it's not a failure. You've learned something new. You've learned a new skill. You've learned how not to do something. And I make lots of mistakes.
I don't believe that, Paul.
Yeah, I listen.
Trust me, I could vouch for that.
You know, I know most people that know me think I'm perfect, but Pastor Daniel will tell you I'm not. And there are times, and you know, open heart surgery a little bit. You know, there are times when Daniel's pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you know," and I failed in something. You understand? And we have to be strong enough. We have to be thick-skinned enough to take it on the nose and move on, so you don't make that mistake again, so you don't fail again. That's the important part, to learn. And I want to say to you, you younger guys, you can learn from older people, and us oldies. Okay, and I'm saying this to those of you that are 50 plus watching here tonight. We can learn from the young ones as well. I want to make that point. There are lots of things that I've learned from Daniel in particular over these last 3 or 4 years. And you know, I'm twice his age. However, I respect him, and I want you older folks to understand that there are younger people in our lives that will bring correction, but also show us where we can jump from where we were onto the next level.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as well about failure is it has a way of keeping us humble. And you know, sometimes we can kind of, you know, think we've got it going on. We can think that, you know, that we don't really need to put much effort in, or we can just coast, or we get overly confident.
Mm-hmm.
And but when we fail, we're reminded of our humanity. We're reminded of our need for God. We're reminded of our need to work hard, to stay on our game, but also, yeah, to realise that, you know, we're all human. We do make mistakes. None of us are perfect, and so it's in those times that we have to be gracious with ourselves. You know, not beat ourselves up, not condemn ourselves. I remember someone saying once, you know, call failure feedback. So the next time you fail, because you're going to make mistakes, you're going to get it wrong, there's going to be imperfections. Don't take it in a negative and think, oh no, it's the end of the world. You know, this is the end. But recognise that it's part of your education. It's feedback. And why now? I know we talk a lot about you know, in the staff about culture of feedback. Yes. And that's something that's really important. But we have to be open to it. And I think it's often easy for us to point the failures out of others. But I think sometimes it's difficult when other people point our failures out, you know, when we get pointed at, and that's where we've got to stay humble, stay open. And even if someone pitches something in, you know, and gives correction, and, you know, I've had correction from every person around, you know, around this table, virtual table. I've had feedback from all of you, and it's helped make me a better leader. Sometimes we even get feedback from our children, Laura, don't we? And that can be very, very humbling as well.
Even when they're older, they continue to do that, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Something for you to look forward to.
Yeah. And I see, whilst we've been on the air here, one of our external leaders has joined us. Nice to see Debbie Tran is watching. I assume Debbie's still in Texas. If you are,
Yes,
Debbie,
Texas.
give us another wave. But nice to have you with us. And if you missed the beginning, we're talking about failure tonight and how we can come out of failure stronger, better, and just move on to that next level. So, Wynell, have you got any other gems you want to drop in?
I think one of the things we were going to try to do was just mention a couple of examples. So I know for me, well, all of us, when we find good videos and things that we can watch that will help us not only with our Christian walk, but even with our businesses, we always share those amongst ourselves here amongst the four of us. And so we've been watching a conference, and one of the ladies that both Laura and I have been commenting on quite a bit is the lady who she used to own IT Cosmetics, and her name is Jamie Kern-Lima, and she actually has a video that says "Turn rejection into a billionaire business," but I think one of the impacting things that she said is that, I'll put this quote out there. It's been said in different ways, I think, but setbacks are your setups. And she certainly has a bunch of them, but I know one that sticks out for me is that because of makeup, and she had a real problem with her skin, with rosacea, and just where you get really red. And she was trying to sell her products, and she actually had a very high up guy in makeup actually tell her that she did not have the right face for makeup. And she went to the car, sat down in the car, and bawled her eyes out. So and when you hear her story about how many times she kept coming back and in the end turned all of that into an actual billionaire business. But there were lots of years to go in between that of all the rejections that she kept getting. So really loved her story because it was so down to earth. I think we all agree that we think she's a Christian. And one of the other things that she really said was that when you really have something that you're hanging on to that's a dream, she said, sometimes your knowing should never feel obligated to do it the way others think you should. And I thought that was really good. So maybe while the rest of you comment about your examples, people in the chat maybe comment about maybe things that they've been trying to do that they failed at, or people told them that they couldn't do. So yeah, whoever would like to go from there.
So we've been watching, it's called The Men Who Built America. So we've been learning about like Thomas Edison and lots of other people. So the guy who he found oil, but I don't think he was the first guy, but he supplied all the kerosene that was for the lamps that lit people's homes and lit people's streets. And when they made the kerosene, there was a runoff liquid that would come off of it, and they would just throw it away in fields because they thought it was useless. And then so he was a billionaire, wasn't he? In today's money. I said Rockefeller. Yeah. I can't remember his first name. Rockefeller. Someone might know in the chat. But so he was a billionaire because he lit everybody's homes. He lit local places, streets. And then when Thomas Edison came along and the light bulb became a hit and started lighting everyone's homes, Rockefeller knew that his days of like selling kerosene in lamps were over. And I think the thing that hit me is he could have had a choice to give up, but he chose to carry on. And they found that the runoff product that they've been throwing away was actually gasoline. So he was the one who, and then I think Henry Ford came along and invented the car, the cheap car for people to be able to buy. And Rockefeller was the one that filled everyone's tanks with gasoline with a product that they just used to throw away. And I think out of all the people we learned about, he was the one that spoke to me the most, because I think like setback after setback, he found another way to survive and thrive and to carry on with what it was that he knew that he was supposed to do.
Yeah, that's it. His first name is John. Thanks for that, Dominic. Yeah, John, I think it's John D Rockefeller, isn't it? But yeah, I just love the entrepreneurial mind of kind of always asking, you know, what can I learn from this? You know, what's the gold I can extract from this situation, and recognizing that there's always something valuable to take. So when you fall over, if you make a mistake, you get it wrong, there's always something that you can extract from that. And of course, it's less painful to learn from other people's mistakes rather than making it yourself. I know there's a book written by Robert Liardon called God's Generals, and he talks about all the different revivalists. And basically the subheading is kind of, you know, how they succeeded and how they fell, kind of, you know, failures. And so he includes the failures in there, and well, as does the Bible. The Bible also includes failures as well, so that we can learn from it. We can avoid pitfalls that other people have fallen into, and I think that will save us a lot of heartache. It will, you know, help us to kind of move forward quicker, to progress faster. So that's why I think, you know, mentoring, coaching, mothering, fathering are so important. Reading books, you know, listening to podcasts, I think are really important. And of course, the power of prayer, when we pray and we ask God, you know, and it's like looking into a mirror, and sometimes the Lord reveals things to us that need to be tweaked, that need to be changed. And I think as we take that feedback on board, we recognize that, you know, we're always loved by God. God loves us as we are, but he loves us too much to stay as we are, and he wants to continually shape and mold us and change us from the inside out, so that we can fulfill our full potential, and ultimately that we can represent the character and nature of Christ more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. You know, I've just been sitting here, just letting things just germinate in my mind, and the thoughts about, you know, there are so many times. I know we talked about this before, but I was thinking about Costa Rica with your dad, when he put his tent up and 3 cows showed up for the meeting. Now you could say that was a failure, and he could have packed up that night and said, "Oh, that's it, guys, we're going." And he, as some of you know, he came off the platform and laid hands on those cows and prayed that they go home and produce more milk. And it was just him, Doris, and Wynell, and I guess Sharon was there as well, the 4 of them. And they could have packed up that night, and Franklin would say, "Okay, you know, I failed." But you know, today, that church, that what he started in that tent with 3 cows, runs 11,000 people. That is not a failure. Now, obviously, he doesn't pastor the church. So he appointed a pastor there, and I think the same guy's still doing it that your dad appointed. And he's a well-renowned preacher now. And so sometimes, you know, it could be a good barbecue. Poor keepers always coming up with the good ones. But there are many times, you know, I've talked with Franklin about some of the things that happened to him, and he could just thrown his hands up in the air and say, "Okay, well, we, you know, failed there." No, you get up and you push on, and you see God's hand just moving all the time. And we have to tell ourselves, you know, some of the guys I meet with, you are not a failure. And you have to tell yourself that sometimes. You're not failing, you're learning. And by the learning that you're on, you're going through a learning curve, and it brings you out the other end. But none of us are failures. It's what we listen to other people. You know, I always tell the guys that I mentor, you know, don't get too much noise in your ear. And what I mean by that is, don't let too many people chatter junk in your ear. Just listen to positive talk that will pull you through. And that way you will not think of yourself as being a failure, but you will be a great success.
Yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it, to separate the experience from your identity. sometimes we can, we fail in a certain situation, and therefore we want to kind of attach it, put that label on our head. I'm a failure, but no, it's just an event. It's part of the learning journey. It's not who you are, and that's why it's so important that that we're encouraging one another as humanity, as brothers and sisters. It's really important that we spur one another on, that to keep going. One of the things I like to say quite often is keep on keeping on. Don't give up. I love that verse. It's a wonderful verse that the Apostle Paul wrote in Galatians 6:9, and he said this: let us not grow weary while doing good, or in due season we shall reap if we don't lose heart and faint. And I think sometimes we can be tempted to lose heart, to faint, to want to give up, to be discouraged. And sometimes, we have to encourage ourselves. Sometimes we need other people to come around us. Thinking about failure as well, I think it tests how much you want something, how hungry you are. And I think, when you see people, you think about like football, and, maybe someone who starts out in the lower divisions and stuff, and they have setbacks, and, maybe they get rejected, but it tests how much do you want this. And those that really step up and say, I'm going to pay the price, I'm going to make the sacrifices, I'm going to graft, I'm going to put the hard work in, I'm going to learn, I'm going to, develop myself. They're the ones who really start to progress and thrive and excel. So I think that when you experience failure, when you encounter failure, it's asking you the question, how much do you want this? How hungry are you for this? And I think it's almost a bit like a refining fire. It will either make you or break you, and it's all about how you respond to it. And I think that sometimes our failures and how we get back up when we've been hit and knocked down, I think inspires heaven. I think that the angels are watching of kind of how we respond in difficult situations. But I also think it inspires humanity. It inspires other people. I know that me and Paul, we both enjoy watching a little bit of boxing. And, Tyson Fury, when he was knocked down by Wilder after being in the wilderness for a long time, he massively overweight. People said he was, just washed up, and he was just a failure, and, he would never come back and be a success. And, he got knocked down by the hard-sitting puncher in the heavyweight division, Wilder, and everyone was like, it's over. Fury's done. He's dead and buried. Yep. And what happened? Fury got up, and, he drew the fight, and then he said that he won it, really. But, he got back up. And I think actually the fight has become more famous, more glorious, has had more impact because he was knocked down and got up, and it showed that fighting spirit, that hunger, that overcoming. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to be beat. Now Tyson Fury has become a massive advocate for mental health. And this whole analogy that he's got, this analogy of when life, knocks you out and knocks you down, are you going to stay down or are you going to get back up? And so I think that how we respond can actually really inspire other people. And I want to say to everyone watching this, that there's a champion inside every one of you, that you're an overcomer, you're a victor. And no matter what might have knocked you down, with God's strength, you can get up and you can overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And, did I see a comment there from Mark Haywood? Let me see what he had to say. Has he stolen one of my lines? Oh, no. It isn't about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get up. And that's so true, isn't it? There's the old proverb that says, if you fall down 7 times, get up 8. And the more you get up, the stronger you become. And here, Sheila Atkins said, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That's very important. Is having that inner courage, that inner spirit in you that keeps pushing you on and keeps making you do it. Rose Bryant there, quitting when the job is finished, not when you are tired. Never give up. And that's so true. Sometimes we get to a point and we get so tired and we think, oh, this is never going to work. And we give up and then we fail and then we don't get up again. And so we waste that gift that God has given us. Okay, remember, we have God's DNA and he's not given up on us. And so we should not give up on ourselves, and we should not give up on what we're doing, and we should not give up on each other. And why now? Scripture there.
Yeah, for God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather a spirit of power and love and of self-discipline. Thank you, Dominique. 2 Timothy 1:7. So we do have a question here in just the last couple of minutes, guys. How do you deal with negative emotions when you failed, but it wasn't your fault? It wasn't your fault, and it wasn't part of God's plan. Yeah, I'm trying to understand that. Maybe just that part. How do you deal with negative emotions when you've failed, but you didn't feel like it was your fault, and you don't feel like it was part of God's plan?
Go and talk to your mentor.
I think the part about, we were talking about reframing, I think that, so I've tried to do this recently, and I've tried to do it with the girls, that going into something with a realistic expectation that is going to happen, and reframing it so that I'm not disappointed, but not that I'm expecting failure, because I'm always expecting the best, and I'm always expecting that, but the reality is that not everything's going to always go right. And if we want to learn and grow, like people have said, there are going to be challenges and things that we're going to face where they're going to help us to level up. But I think being realistic and just knowing that is going to happen, and I think that helps. It helps me to deal with the disappointment that it hasn't quite worked out the way I thought it was going to, because I'm open to the fact that I want it to go a certain way, but it might not, and if it doesn't, then it's okay, because I'll find another way. And you might have a down couple of days or whatever where you feel like that, and you do have negative emotions about it, which is okay, because we do all deal with disappointment and negative feelings around that kind of thing. But I think just being open to it sounds wrong, I guess, but being aware that does happen.
I think as well, being gracious. So, I mean, it's difficult to know exactly how to respond to this, not knowing the specific situation. But if it was, I don't know, in a team situation, let's say, you're playing doubles at tennis or whatever, and your partner missed a shot, it was their fault, that you failed, you lost that match. I think it's important to be gracious and recognize that sometimes people will make mistakes, but we make many mistakes. And so reminding yourself of what you've been forgiven from, reminding yourself of how others have been gracious with you, and recognizing that people are just human. They will make mistakes. So I think being gracious and sowing grace is really helpful. Recognizing that some things are outside of your control. So sometimes don't beat yourself up. Don't beat others up. Be gracious. And I think the second thing I would say is also remind yourself of past successes, and celebrate your progress. I know Joyce Meyer, famous woman preacher, says this phrase. She says, I might not be where I want to be, but praise God, I'm not where I used to be.
Mm.
And so, in other words, I've made progress. I have overcome a lot. I've matured. I've moved forward. I've, overcome a lot of things. And, to be an overcomer, you have to have stuff to overcome.
Just one quick comment as well. The same person who put that some people aren't born fighters. And I just think, like, everybody knows my opinion around this, but you're a fighter because you fight. So you have to fight to become a fighter. So I think that whoever that was that commented, that's how we learn. We fight, we push our way through things, and that's how we become strong.
Yeah.
In a godly way, we'll just clarify, put that disclaimer.
They knew what I
Get your
meant.
boxing gloves out. But it's true. I agree.
Want any complaints?
Yeah, we don't want any complaints at the weekend about people that have been fighting. Well, it's been good talking about this, and I'm sure we could talk for a lot longer, but our time has run out. What I would say is this: if you want to continue this dialogue with us, write to the office email address, and I'll say it again: get a mentor. Daniel mentioned it earlier on, and it's so important that you have someone that you can go and talk to and talk about some of the challenges that you have, and a mentor will be able to talk you through it and help you, and most of all, pray about it. And as we come to a close, I'm going to try my very best to remember all the things.
Let's see. Come on, you can do it.
That we're doing. Now, 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. on Friday morning, Pastor Daniel will be fired up and ready to minister to you. He'll have his boxing gloves on. And then Sunday morning, don't forget our broadcast at 10:30. And this week, Pastor Daniel will bring in the word again. 11:45. We'll have the tables down the side of the church again, and I'm hoping and believing and praying to God that there's no rain this week. But those of you that came, I know you had a great time, and we would love to see more of you this week. 11:45 to 1 p.m. We'll have tea and coffee available, and the usual restrictions. But you know, you're so used to those now that they won't bother you. 6 p.m. broadcast again. And Sunday evening, I'm not sure who's speaking Sunday evening, but
I think it might be you.
Okay, I tell you, I've just
You didn't just learn that.
It's our failure, Paul.
Yeah, I'll be speaking on failure. Don't worry about that. And I think I've covered all the announcements that we need. And it's been so good being in your homes, wherever you are on your devices, wherever you are in the United Kingdom, across Europe, in America. I see we had Debbie Tran stay with us, and also Wendy Potter. So good to you to be with us, and God bless you. And we will see you on Friday morning, 7 a.m. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.